My name is Madeline June Sampson. That is my Christian name. My tribal name or my Indian name is Tawaswapam Tiwiwas. Translated, it means little sister, the bow that cannot be broken. And I'm a Yakima tribal member from Eastern Washington. I was the youngest of eight daughters, and I was the last female born at home. During my time, that was the condition of families, that children were born at home. And so my mom had a midwife, which was my aunt. When I was a young child, the household was a single parent. My mother was the only parent I knew when she couldn't afford to support us continually. So we moved in with my grandmother and my uncle, so there was enough parenting in the home for all of us children. There was 13 in all. I was number 8, I think, in the list. My family moved around during harvest time, and there was other children from cousins and sisters, siblings, and there was no child care or babysitting. And since I was the youngest female, I was just elected to take care of the littles in the household. So in conflict with change on the reservation, my grandmother and my mom, they didn't look upon schooling as anything that they were interested in or considering for their children. It was just what they told me was a white man education was no good for Native people. Well, in my time era, there was a lot of prejudice and unkindness, and I didn't like school because of that. I was always a roughneck tomboy type of person. I wouldn't take insults or bad put downs, and I would, how they say, flight or fright, and I would fight. I didn't run away from it. I stood there and held my ground, got beat up a lot, in trouble a lot, suspended a lot, so I was at the bottom of the list. I had missed so much education. They didn't even know they meaning the school, the staff, didn't know where to place me. Because I was born at home, there was no birth certificate, so I was already held back a year from first grade. And then from there on, in and out of school, I was a very bad and low achiever. I didn't care for the school system because of the bullying and harassment on the reservation. My mother was told to go to the tribal agency, which is in Toppenish, and we had to go talk to the BIE agent, I guess. I don't really know what they're called. But when I arrived at the office, they sent all my family out of the room, and I was in there with that government person, and he told me I had to fill out a form for boarding school. Or he didn't even say boarding school, he said I had to fill out some forms, and that he had done all of that for me, and all I had to do was sign my name. So I just did what he asked me to. I signed my name on that form, and he left the office, and I thought I was done. But later he came back with a piece of paper and a pencil or pen, I don't know what he gave me. But he told me I had to submit a letter to the school why I wanted to go. And he just left the items on the table, and I sat there quite confused because I didn't understand what he was talking about. All I remember was him saying that why I wanted to go, and I assumed it meant go to the bathroom. So I looked at my pencil on the table, I picked it up. I'm gonna go because I want to relieve myself. I didn't understand the question, and there was no explanation. He came back for the note and told me to sign it, and that was my admitting on paper that I wanted to go away. It was just the very next day after I submitted that note that my mother was told to go shopping and get me some school clothes because I was going away. And the voucher that they gave her wasn't even enough for the items that I needed. Like, for instance, in my household, because I was the youngest female, we all shared the same clothing. I didn't have anything that was my own personal clothing. Everything was shared, community, property. Everyone had the right to anybody's articles. And after I packed the things that I had, I tied it into a blanket. And my oldest sister came in the front room when my mom was got on the car to start it, and she said, what's in that bundle? And I said, oh, that's my clothes for school. I have to go. And she said, you can't go with that bundle. Not on the going to school. So she ran in her room, dug around under her bed, and found a little brown suitcase, and she dumped everything, and I was able to put most of my stuff in that little suitcase she gave me. And she saw the items I had, and she said that it wasn't really enough. So she gave me some of her clothing, which is at least 3 sizes too big for me, but I took them anyway because I didn't know. I couldn't, in my generation, I was told not to deny anything. Anything gifted you received, anything offered, take. So there was no other question about how to answer. When we arrived at the bus station the very next morning, it was a shock of my life because I assumed that the boarding school I was going to was Chemawa, which is in Oregon. But when I looked at my bus ticket and pulled it out of the envelope, it all unfolded like an accordion. It just kept growing. And I said, wow. And I quickly put it back, stuck it back, and I looked up at my mom and I was going to tell her, I don't want to go, but she said, stay next to the bus driver, stay right behind him, and don't get, left at any other bus stop. And it was really scary to me because I didn't leave by myself ever. I was always with my family. And I guess it was some loose change that the agency had. They gave me a little funding for food for the bus stops. But I was so afraid during the bus stops. I just go hide in the bathroom, which was at the back of the bus, because I didn't want to get off and I didn't want to go see different people in those stations. So I would just stay in the bathroom until it was time to go. So for 3 days I didn't order. And then later on I thought of it, well, the reason the main reason why I didn't get off is because we always ate our family meals at home. I didn't know how to order off of a menu or at a fast place to eat, so it was really scary to me to order and to take care of just myself on the trip. We had to make at least 2 bus lines from Greyhound to Continental to, I can't remember the other bus line, but in one of the time journey, because it took three days to get from Toppenish to Oklahoma, I fell asleep and I stayed on the wrong bus. By the time they realized I was on the wrong bus, they had to pull into the bus station, and I was the sole customer or rider on that, passenger on that bus to complete my journey. It was very confusing. I didn't have any elder or older kids or even younger kids with me. It was strangers on that bus, stranger behind the bus. The bus driver was a stranger. Eventually we made it, and I was even more weary because I hadn't eaten for a long time, so I was really quite hungry, but I was more fearful than hungry. So when I arrived at the bus station at my destination, it was a little town off of campus. And when I got off, I went into the bus station, and there was a person there who came up and asked me if I was Madeline Sampson, and I looked at him and I didn't really answer him, but they took me by the hand and led me to their car. And I hesitated because I thought, why do I have to go with this stranger? Why do I have to come this far? I was so confused and dazzled by my journey. My arrival on campus was very awakening. When I got my dorm place of living, I was shocked because it was a military base living, or just rows, 3 big rows of bedding all the way down from one end to the other. All female lived in that military dormitory. And I've never lived in that manner before. I was afraid to sleep. I was afraid to change. Everybody was stranger and everyone was the same and hesitant to talk. But there were a lot of little girls, little tiny toddler-like. To me, they looked like toddlers, but they were. The schooling that I was at is Concho, Oklahoma, the Cheyenne-Arapaho Concho Indian Boarding School. And the enrollment was from 1st grade to 8th grade. And there were very few 8th graders there. There was maybe 6 of us, maybe. And all the rest were just little teeny tiny girls, and from all different tribal affiliation. Some were very friendly, but they were all like me. We never really talked a lot. We were more scared of each other and being in the strange building. Some had arrived before I got there, and some were still coming. So everything was so new and strange. When I became familiar with some of the little girls, their story was so heartbreaking that they were just left at the door of the school. And when they told me the story, I automatically thought of these kids are treated like little puppies. They're unwanted puppies. They're just put on a car and left at that campus without enrolling. I guess I assume that they may have known about these children, but I don't even know the facts. But I remember when we were crying so hard about being homesick and the little one telling me that they had lost their parents in a horrible accident, and the state wouldn't allow the grandparents to keep them because they assumed that the grandparents were too elderly. So they didn't really have anyone and were just practically abandoned at the school. It was very hard. They, meaning the school, they just placed me there because of my age. I don't even know what grade I was in because there was so much lack of attendance during the school year. Throughout the school years, my attendance was very traumatic. There were a lot of strict regulation. The whole system of Concho was military style. Everything was done by the clock and in an orderly fashion, and everyone went the same places together. We had to line up according to grade level. We never got to go outside of that group. We went in lineup to breakfast, lunch, to class, to dinner. And we did have recreation time, but it was just limited to like an hour after dinner. So everything was controlled and supervised by staff. I don't really remember much of the classes. I'm surprised I finished. There were other kids who were on campus, had been there before, the older, like 4, 5, and 6. Some of them were returning students and they knew the routine, and they ran off from school. And when they were brought back, we didn't see them right away, but we knew they were back on campus somewhere. So most of us were too afraid to even try to think of walking off because we knew something was happening to those that did wander off campus. When I was at Concho, there were no communications from home. I didn't know from the day I left to the day that I graduated from there that what was going on. And a lot of the little younger girls were so crying all the time and they were so homesick. And I was just as homesick as they were. But it was trying to comfort those little ones that kind of made me get out of my own shyness, and I started becoming a helper, nurturer to the little ones there. I guess that everything's the same because I said the first year was really hard. My life on the reservation was even harder because, you know, the farm labor, because I had to cook and wash clothes at home, and it was a real hard life doing that. I went back to the reservation in Yakima, and the same ordeal occurred, that come to the agency and fill out your application for boarding school. This time at least they told us what it was. And by then I was used to all the drill, the military lifestyle, the hard, everything done in an orderly fashion. And I come to like that system better than the things that I had to endure on the rest of missing a lot of school and tending to others and not to my own, taking care of myself. My family did the powwow trails at different areas in the state of Washington. Like whenever there was a tribal gathering, we went as a whole body. So my summers were all filled with powwows, and then when certain roots and things were ripe and ready, we harvested up in the mountains. Then ninth grade, yes, it became my choice because my last few months of Concho, I met a boy and we were really buddy, and it got to be serious. So we kind of started dating like in May. And we left that June, so we were just now getting to know each other from the boarding school at 8th grade. And we ended up both at the same high school. We didn't plan it. It's something that our parents or the BIA set for us to go. We didn't know we were going to meet at the same boarding school the next year. The high school was Chalaco Indian Boarding School, and it was its own city, so it was Chalaco Indian Boarding School, Chalaco, Oklahoma. It was in the northern part of Oklahoma. Kansas was the next state, so we were right on that border, the state line border. When I realized I had to do something, somehow I figured I needed goals and direction. So I needed to figure out how to become independent instead of relying on being home all the time. I had to figure out how to get out and what would keep me going. And that's why I filled out the application for Chalaco. It was comparing education at a boarding school where everything was consistent and grounded, even though it was so awful. I mean, the strictness of overcoming certain tribes were more abundant. The enrollment was so abundant that they became formed into gangs. So even back in that time, the gang ruled the campus. And it was hard to get around without the gang trying to intimidate. We always had to have company or staff with us. They had a mailing list for students who were able to receive letters and packages. But like all military or prison, everything was checked out and opened and edited for us. So there was we couldn't read anything. If a loved one passed away, it'd be inked out. Or divorce happened, it was inked out. So we never got bad news from home. We just knew we had letters, probably to keep us there at the school so we wouldn't run off. They called it AWOL, absent without leave.
Just like the military.
Yep. If we left, it was AWOL, so we stayed where we were supposed to. The men, if they wanted to go take a date to the movies or to the dances or even to attend church with their friend, who happened to be female, they had to call and they had to let their home matron know that they needed to make a phone call, a personal phone call, and then they were allowed in the office to call the girls' dormitory, and they had to ask for permission to date or to escort the female from one place to another to events on campus, which was kind of embarrassing, but yet it was good because some of the gals who always had gentlemen callers and dates, they were the lovelies and us wallflowers, kind of like, oh my God, are those guys ever gonna leave her alone? Like, when is it your turn to be having a gentleman caller, you know? So sometimes it got to be a little mockery, you know, jealousy, envy, teenage stuff, you know, like feud, like, God, I wish I had guys calling me. And like I said, I could have said a lot of other things because every year of high school there were different complications or situations that would arise. A lot of resistance for some of the older students that were newbies. They retaliated and resisted authority and fought. And when we had to witness those encounters, it was really frightening, because to see your own peers beaten in public was very harsh. When there was retaliation, it was something that they wanted to do on their own. They didn't want supervision or adult authority. They wanted to be free, I guess, for them to do and come and go as they wanted. And that just wasn't allowed at that time.
So that's when they would start fighting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they handcuffed them after they beat them. They handcuffed them down in the basement without lights and without the only food were given were water and bread, and I don't even know how long that lasted. Them seemed like it must have went on for quite a while, because slowly the gang did start dissipating. They broke up and things somewhat kind of calmed down.
After high school, you went to college or the BIA?
Yes, there was a boarding school type of college for Native people. It was a tribal school also. It was run by Native people at high school, junior college. That's what it was called when I attended. It was high school, junior college, which is a 2-year program, getting ready for, you know, whatever destination or college level we wanted to go into the field. It was so night and day. Of those of us that were brought up in the strict disciplinary actions of the school, we got lost in the system. Some of us made real wise choices, and others just took off and either eloped or ran off from campus, and they never, I don't know whatever happened to them. That there was no control like there was at the high school level and the regular school, elementary level, I guess.
So yeah, kind of a shock.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't prepared for it because I think when I was attending high school, I had only like 2 days of assignments a week, and the rest was so boring. I just got lost in the boredom there. I didn't know where I fit in anymore because I was used to everything being systematic and conditioned. That to have all that free time, I got tempted and led off in different directions and did things that I regretted but overcame.
And
I did meet my husband. We were friends, acquaintances at high school. We attended the same boarding school, and he would walk me to class, and we would share a goofy little transistor radio that I got somewhere somehow. I don't know how I came about getting it, and that little transistor just bonded me with a lot of the other students because that was kind of like a new item at the time, because we were not allowed many things, personal things. And that little transistor was so tiny, like the kids now hide their phones. And so we had that one little transistor radio. It was a little pocket-sized transistor. Didn't get much channels, but we loved the old tunes, or the new tunes at the time, the new tunes that came out. I would have, in conclusion, to never give up. Don't give up on yourself. Always remember you are here, and even though our ancestors suffered greatly, we are still here. We are still determined to move on and go forward. No one can push us back. And being resilient means bending with the trend and picking ourselves back up if we fall, and just don't ever quit, don't ever. What I tell the littles is take care of yourself, first of all. Take care of yourself. Don't give yourself up to anything. You learned how to overcome being a baby, a toddler, and now school. You're in school, you're able to get dressed and choose the clothing you want to wear and get your hair done. And coming to school is another privilege, because when the mind is open, there's no shutting it down and no going back, and you can only move forward, and there's better things ahead. To take care of yourself first, take care of your area, because with your home life, family life, all of those things are necessary to get strong. Then to take care of the community of where you are. Get involved, get into a group, find your friends, find out what you're good at, a talent, and just stay in it. And people will come to you, people will find you and encourage you, and you'll encourage each other to be together, be strong.
I love that. That's a great message.
That's what I teach.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think we got everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you did amazing.